Hello, everybody. Hi, Fallbrook. We are going to start our first in-person meeting post-COVID, so we're all very excited about that. So this is the meeting of the Board of Trustees, regular meeting agenda, July 12th, 2021. And so I'm calling to order at 4:02. We are in the PAC at Fallbrook Union High School at 2400 South Stagecoach Lane in Fallbrook, California. So at this time, I'll announce we're going to have a closed session, and these are the items that we'll be discussing: public employment discipline, dismissal, and release. Government Code Section 54957. Then we have B, the conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, and that one is Government Code Section 54956.9D and 1. And then the third one is conference with labor negotiations, Government Code Section 54957.6. And underneath that, we have district negotiator, our superintendent, Mrs. Ilsa Garza Gonzalez. We have employee organizations, FHSTA and SEIU, Local 221. Then the third one is unrepresented employees, classified management, certified management, and confidential employees. Then the last one is public employee performance evaluation for our superintendent. Opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any item described in this agenda for the closed session. Opportunity will be granted later for open session items. This is under Government Code Section 54954.3. Does anybody want to make a comment? Hearing none, we'll close the session at 4:05, and we'll be back at, do we open at 5 o'clock? 5:30. Thank you very much. All right, we're here in person finally. How is everybody tonight? Yeah, this is the Board of Trustees regular meeting agenda for July 12th, 2021. And we're going to start out with our flag salute. Oh, it's over here. Would anybody in the audience like to be our leader? I see Chris back there. That you? Come on up.
All right, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Fallbrook, we got real people in the audience. This is like brand new system here in the big room. So we're at the PAC, what we call the PAC, our auditorium. And I'm going to start out with the roll call. For the Board of Trustees, Diane Summers, President, that's me, and I'm here. Then we have Eddie Jones, our Vice President.
Present.
Talk into the microphone. Talk into the microphone.
Present.
Thank you. Hear you better. Ilana Sterling, Clerk.
Present.
Thank you. Oscar Caralampio.
Present.
Thank you. And Lita Tavish.
Present.
Okay, she's our trustee. Two trustees, Oscar and Lita, they're our trustees. Technically, we all are. But then we have our superintendent, Mrs. Ilsa Garza Gonzalez.
Present.
Thank you. All open sessions of the Board of Trustees are recorded and streamed in real time on www.fuhsd.net. So, informal review of governing teams norms. The Board of Trustees approved norms are that we be respectful, be approachable, be open-minded, be communicative, no surprises, be willing to listen, be prepared, and to be trustworthy. Our report from closed session, I will verbally read for the microphone here all the different things in the closed session and give you a report. First one is public employment discipline, dismissal, and release, and that happens to be Government Code Section 54957. On that item, we have nothing to report. For the conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, and on that we have nothing to report. The next one is conference with labor negotiations, Government Code Section 54957.6, and under that is our district negotiator, Ilsa Garza Gonzalez, our superintendent, employee organizations, FHSTA and SEIU Local 221. And the next one is unrepresented employees. That includes classified management, certified management, and confidential employees. The last one is public employee performance evaluation for our superintendent. And on the third one, the conference with labor negotiations, we have nothing to report. And we have nothing to report on our evaluation at this time. So that brings us to our agenda, that the board adopt the agenda for the regular meeting of July 12, 2021. I need a motion for that, please.
I move that the board adopts the agenda for the regular meeting of July 12th, 2021.
I second.
Thank you. So that's Tabish and Carlampio. So any discussions or concerns? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a vote. We'll start out with, we go alphabetically with this, so we start out with Mr. Carlampio.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Summers says aye. And Ms. Tabish?
Aye.
All right. Our next section is public comments. Please be advised that this agenda item is provided to allow members of the public to make suggestions or identify concerns about matters affecting the district. The Fallbrook Union High School District Board of Education encourages and invites the public to comment on agenda or non-agenda items. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Okay, total public input on any one subject will be limited to 20 minutes and may be extended on the discretion of the board president. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at this time. Comments on an agenda item may be taken at this time or when the agenda item is discussed by the board. Speakers will be called in order of topic and when card was submitted. The district silence should not be mistaken for agreement with public comments. Rather, the board remains silent to comply with California law, avoid legal entanglements, and/or to protect the privacy of those involved. Please be assured any serious allegations have been or will be investigated thoroughly. Any responses from the board will occur during board member comments. So, we got our timer going.
Is it going to be in the back? So our first speaker is Chris Potter with a band update.
Come on up, Chris.
hello. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. For those that don't know, I am Chris Potter. I'm the Band Booster President. This will be my 3rd year as the President and 4th year as a booster. I'm also a graduate of Fallbrook High from 1996. Woo! Oh, sorry. So a little bit of an update on the band. Our booster program was supporting the band to go to Hawaii. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go. So we got the fantastic joy of refunding $39,000 to all of our families. We got that all done earlier this year, so that's a done deal, wrapped. And all of our families should be kind of made whole, even though the booster program basically had to fundraise to make that happen. As such, outside of that, the boosters have been working on a scholarship program. And this year we had $2,000 allocated to 2 students, one for guard, the color guard, and one for the band, the music program. Through an anonymous donation, we actually were able to give away $4,000, $1,000 to each student. So we got 2 guard students and 2 band students. That was a lot of fun to be able to see their eyes and do that. This year, we're gonna have about 100 students in the program. This makes the band and guard the largest we've seen in the last 7 years pre-COVID. So this last year in COVID, we actually had more students, but through moves, COVID issues, we're seeing a little bit of a downturn. With that, because we're large, and I can't see the timer, so I don't know where I am, but we need instruments and coaches to be able to do this. Because we have more students than we've ever had before, our instrument allotment has dwindled, either due to very old instruments or just more population in the band than what we had. So we've asked for some instruments over the summer or in the spring. We're asking again for some help there. And as reported on June 21st from the National Association for Music Education, the U.S. Department of Education recognizes the music education as part of the ESSER guidance. So there's money out there for instruments, for coaches, to get us back to pre-COVID levels and give those students those experiences and that we desperately need. So, how am I on time?
You have like 10 seconds.
Okay, fantastic. So our band parent ask is to be part of this conversation on how to get that money and how to utilize that money to support the band program. So not asking for the general, but asking for getting that money.
Thank you very much and for all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you for yours.
Next, please.
Our next speaker is Penny Pongun from FHS Band Boosters.
Hello, I'm going to follow up on what Chris just mentioned as far as the Band Booster program. I'm Penny Pongun. I have a son who's going to be a junior this year. I have been the vice president of the Band Boosters for the past 2 years, and this year I will be the treasurer. So our band program consists of the marching band, the concert season in the spring, as well as the color guard. We also provide support, the Band Boosters, for the winter color guard and the winter drum line as well, which happen in the spring season. Our marching band, both the guard and the band, provide the marching season, which is in the fall. Our competitions start in October, but we are practicing. We actually have our band camp coming up at the beginning of August. So our season will run from August through the beginning of December. And in order to have that program, we do need coaches to provide the movements that the kids make on the field. We also need coaches for each of the different instruments, for the different section leaders. And that takes a lot of time to be able to do that, especially with now looking at a large band of over 100 students. We need multiple coaches. And we really feel that art and having music in our schools is still vital. It's vital for these kids to have an outlet, to have a group that they can depend on and become a family throughout the whole year and through the season. In addition to the request for instruments that need to be replaced, that are broken, the instruments also have to have cases, and in order to protect the instrument. So our cases are in very much disrepair. We need to replace cases, handles. Students are getting cut on their hands from the handles that are ripping and breaking off. We have exposed bolts and things that are holding them together. Duct tape is holding our cases together. They're very much in need of repair. We have seen other programs get new equipment or new, we got a new football field and things of that nature, but our program, since, at least since I've been here, and I think for Chris and Mr. Lee, our band director, it's been over 7 years since we've had new instruments. And again, we are very much in need of those. And through the ESSER program, we are asking for us as parents and the Band Booster Board to be able to be stakeholders in those conversations, to how do we create the programs that are already there and enhance what we already have. Rather than starting new programs, we really want to build our championship band, which has been leaders in our San Diego community for many years. So thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's always good to hear about what's going on with the band. Next, please.
Our next speaker is Marcia Flowers regarding transparency.
Hi, I'm Marcia Flowers. I'm a long-term time resident of Fallbrook, a businesswoman and a retired public schools teacher, some of it in Fallbrook. We live, unfortunately, in a time when many Americans have lost trust in many of our institutions. They don't trust Congress, the nightly news media, social media, and unfortunately, many of them are starting to suspect that our schools are not on the up and up. This hurts me because of my background, and I would like to see that changed. It's happening because there are many stories on the internet about critical race theory being taught under the guise of ethnic studies. There are also stories about sex education classes having inappropriate lessons for kids in school. We've heard about the stories. We don't know whether they're true, and because many people don't trust the news, it's hard to know where to turn to get the right story. Parents and teachers and people in the community truly want to trust you. We know that you came into this job, which has to be a thankless one at times, with the best of intentions. But without the trust in today's climate, there has to be something done to improve the trust that parents need to have in order to send their kids to school. Homeschooling is growing at the present time. Within the last 4 years, I think I read it had grown tremendously, like fourfold. I have some suggestions. Invite representatives from the PTA, the Village News, maybe others interested, to come to teacher in-services. Provide copies of new curricula like the new ethnic studies, K-12 curriculum that people can get copies of. I would love to see, instead of you're on one side and we're on the other. I would like to see discussions between school board and community members, like maybe an informal town hall where we could meet each other, know what everyone's goals are, and learn to be team members. We're on the same team. Is that possible or is it illegal? Somebody just mentioned that there's a law against you responding, so you can't tell me if it's illegal because I asked a question? Apparently not. Okay, thank you for your time.
We take notes. Thank you very much for your report. Next person, please.
Sherry Weishar, lack of communication is the topic.
Hello, thank you. Some of you know, and many of you probably do not know, I have had my children attending schools here in Fallbrook for over 20 years. I know I look quite young, but that's the reality. And I'm disappointed in the inconsistency and lack of communication that exists from this particular school district and this school site. First and foremost, the one that's closest to me, my son is eligible to be recognized by the California Scholastic Federation, having maintained a 3.85 grade point average the entire time he's been here. He'll be starting his senior year in the fall. However, he has not joined that organization because we were not aware of its existence, despite the fact that the coordinator for that program was his math teacher for 2 full years. It's disappointing, to say the least, for having him miss out on scholarship opportunities and recognition at graduation. I did, however, receive 6 notifications from the school last Friday about a power outage during summer while my children are not attending. I got 1 notification to my husband's email about today's meeting. I received additionally 6 notifications today about confirming data for my 2 high school students next year. 6 notifications during a workday. 5 weeks from the start of school, I do not know what hours school will be held. I do not have information about sports or club activities. I do not know when my incoming freshman needs to be here to register for class. So apparently, the only communication that we get is the ones deemed important by the school, and not those that are necessarily important for the parents. I work. I have to coordinate a lot of things in my life, transportation being one of those for my kids. And not having the very basics of information to maintain some sort of consistency in schedule is disappointing. And on top of that, to now have a school board requesting to get paid to attend meetings and not communicate, shocking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And may we have the next guest, please?
Judy Willis, the topic is an opinion. Board, is our country systematically racist?
Good evening. Since this board is responsible for approving what curriculum is taught in our high schools and also the activities that are implemented, I think the public should know your standing concerning the topic of systemic racism in our country. Do you believe this is a fact, that this country is systemically racist? I request your opinions be voiced during the comment session or next board meeting be put on the agenda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next guest, please.
Mary Featherstone on the subject of equity and equality.
Hello. I have been a longtime Fallbrook resident, 31 years. Both my kids went to Fallbrook High School. And in light of the recent decision by the National Education Association to promote the teaching of critical race theory nationwide, I have deep concern for students being taught this racist ideology. That skin color matters more than character, that based on their skin color, they are either oppressed or oppressors. This divisive teaching will promote the racism that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 sought to eliminate. I want to differentiate between equity and equality. Equity is the opposite of equality. Identity, race, background, and behavior are taken into account, so everyone is treated differently. There is manufactured discrimination in equity. The goal of equity is to make everyone equally successful or unsuccessful. The problem with equity: creating identical outcomes for people requires artificially helping demographics deemed worthy. Although this is advertised as morality, helping specific demographics means hurting and discriminating against others. Equity kills the drive to excel. It redistributes gain so no one has more than another. I'm nervous. Equality. Equality means everyone is treated the same regardless of identity, race, or background. There is no discrimination. The goal of equality, it gives everyone an equal opportunity for success. It recognizes that each person is equipped with differing abilities and minds, celebrating their unique makeup. It does not judge based on differences, but treats everyone equally and grants them equal access to success. It promotes the drive to excel. The words of Milton Friedman serve as a fitting caveat. A society that puts equality in the sense of equality of outcome ahead of freedom will end up with neither equality or freedom. The use of force to achieve equality will destroy freedom, and the force introduced for good purposes will end up in the hands of people who use it to promote their own interests. And if you look at just back at history of nations and countries that have promoted equity, equal outcomes, or socialism, proves that totalitarianism is always a dismal failure, resulting in tyrannical rule and devastation and the loss of freedom of the people of that culture. So a few questions. Are you teaching kids about skin color? Are you going to teach children that what matters most in life are things they cannot control or change? Skin color doesn't matter. Character, skill, commitment, and personal responsibility matter. These are things one can control. Skin color is not something one can control. I just ask that you would consider those things. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion. And our next person, please.
Heidi Roderick, and the question or agenda item is education as a focus.
Hello, my name is Heidi Roderick, and I had a senior graduate this last year. I have an incoming 11th grader. It's gonna seem a little odd, but I'm gonna tell you about my family vacation. My grandfather passed away this last year, and he was Creole. And we decided to go to Louisiana to find out more about my ancestors. And in part of that was visiting a place called the Laura Plantation. It's the only Creole plantation in Louisiana. It was fascinating. I learned a lot. And actually, it was heartbreaking. I learned that after the Civil War was won, many of the slaves that were free were required to be paid for their work. But instead of giving them money, they had these contracts they would have the slaves, sign, even though they couldn't read. And they would sign these contracts, and essentially they'd be paid with tokens that they could use on these plantations to buy their needs, whatever they needed. Also, their housing was included a lot of times in these contracts. And it just really bothered me, and I thought, why would they keep doing this? And so I asked the question, why did they sign this every year? And it just came down to they couldn't read, they didn't know how to do math. A lot of times the plantation owners would tell them, that they owed money. Who knows if they did or not? Maybe they didn't. There was no way to prove that they didn't. They had no education. And I was shocked to find out that the last living family members, and actually some of them weren't even family members, they actually were freed slaves, left this plantation in 1977. I'm sharing this experience with you because I was really bothered by reading the draft for the LCAP, with our inside data showing that only 12% of our students can even meet math standards. That bothers me. It doesn't seem like it bothers the board or the district. It's hardly talked about. We've had this huge focus on solar panels. We've had so many discussions about solar and contracts. We've had all these discussions about bringing somebody on for a new position. It was the only thing discussed in the LCAP for restorative justice and unconscious bias training. And I just can't help but think, what an injustice to our kids that we're focusing on these things and not their education. We're setting them up to be enslaved, again.
Okay, thank you. Good report. Next person, please.
Margaret Chapman on the solar project. Noted. Jason Ewig on the solar array concerns.
I'm actually reading for myself and for a member that's not here, so could I get a little levity? Dan happens to be out of town right now, so this is a letter.
Excuse me, can you read, if you want the extra time, because we have Dan's statement, we were going to read that for him. Do you want to just?
I'm going to read it for the general public as well.
Perfect.
Okay. To the FUHS board members, I'm writing this email to all of you as I am unable to attend public comment due to work-related travel. I am very concerned as a taxpayer, parent, and Fallbrook-born graduate that is supporting the third generation of my family to come through the Fallbrook school system. The multi-million-dollar solar project is creating concern amongst many parents that is no longer within the initial contract award footprint, and the initial footprint steals away usable land for current and future students. There are proposed change orders to the plan, and this may be a legal concern to the district as it no longer conforms to the original contract context. The questions and concern is how a responsible leadership group can feel it is appropriate to place solar panels in areas that are currently in use, have past history of use, or have potential for student use. Land is a commodity that FUHS has no way to create at this location. Solar panels should be installed in only areas for historical parking or areas that are not possible for school growth. Building roofs, soil embankments, areas needing shade, or areas that cannot be used for practice, sports, should only be considered. Covered shade areas, expanded carport parking in the workshop areas, and even the bus parking or bank in the upper football field should be considered. The current proposed solar plan is beyond costly, and the environmental benefit is not a direct benefit to any student attending this school. As a board member, your first question should always be, Is what we're doing benefiting benefiting students, and is this project benefiting them? This project is eliminating a historically used sports field, the back pasture, and is now encroaching on currently utilized agriculture fields. The agriculture program here is second to none in Southern California. It is a bright area with many success stories that is under-recognized by most administration and staff, and it should no way be encroached. The practice field, though recently abandoned because we've been in a pandemic for the last 18 months, is still a viable piece of land for other use for students, even public access potential since the fencing of the track and football stadium. It is the board's responsibility to not proceed with this project until all locations are evaluated in a manner that does not take away land that is usable, takes away from outdoor activities, and eliminates options for the future. Scaling this project to areas that are only usable for solar should be priority one, and then as public and transparent evaluations occur, additional phases can be installed. Please evaluate the current project as it is now over 2 years along, and do not take the easy road out as any contractor will encourage you to do. Do not pay change order fees for a project that has not even broken ground. Do not eliminate options for future growth for a green project that can still be completed with creative ideas and a look to future for all. As thank you, as Dan Brown, class of 1990. Is my time up? Sorry, I speak publicly a lot. I guess this is going to be my 3 minutes. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason Ewig. I am an electrical and solar installer contractor in this town. I've been here for 22 years. I have 5 children that have been through this program, 2 that are still going. So I took the time today to read the 55-page contract that you board members had. And it's a pretty standard contract. Solar's coming. It's great. We need solar. However, I want to bring up some concerns that I know it's maybe a little bit late in the process, or maybe feels a little bit late in the process, but you know, it's been a while, and these are areas that need to be addressed. So I want to take a very pragmatic and common sense approach to this contract that you guys are looking to approve and sign today. And by the time I get to the end of this, I'm going to urge you guys to table this to the next meeting, and maybe we ought to bring a representative from the contractor himself so that he can directly face. That would be fair, that he can directly face, you know, questions. Because as a contractor myself, I got questions. One, it is proposed that we're going to put a parking structure, a covered parking structure over the 2 lots. Great. My wife and I have been saying this has been a long time coming. Why haven't we had it yet? You know, this is great that it's going to happen. My first concern as a contractor, we got a baseball field right there. What are we doing about the foul balls? Now, as a solar contractor, I've replaced plenty of panels myself. Now, we're going to get 8 to 16 foul balls that are going to smash at any given time those things. Has that been addressed? Are we going to bring a net? You know, what are we going to do? My first concern would be like, we've got all this roofing available. Why have we not decided to take part of the array and put it on the roof? That's one. 2, we're talking about taking up the ground-mounted part of the array, and I got 60 seconds left. The ground-mounted part of the array is going to take up 2 areas of pasture. I know that this project has been under consideration for 2 years, but we've been in a pandemic for the last 18 months. And I know it's really easy to look at that green field over there and go, what are they doing with it? We're not doing anything with it. Well, historically, it has been used for girls lacrosse. It is frequently used for cattle. Right now, we only have 11 cattle up there, but we only had 11 kids this year in the pandemic that wanted to do cattle. Historically, there's usually 20 plus, not to mention the pigs, not to mention also the goats. So we should not be taking that area. There should be other areas. There should be other areas under concern, such as in Dan's letter. You know, there's plenty of other parking structures that we can do. Liquefaction, I understand that that is a concern, but there are ways around that. Additionally, it is a civil engineering feat in order to get power from point A to point B to go back to that unused pasture. I look at that contract and I go, Well, why didn't they do it this way? Why, I understand that there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be upgraded, but why didn't they do it like this? Why can't we do this? My time's up, but I'm going to propose to you guys that you guys table this motion until the next session. Let's bring in a representative so that they can fairly answer the questions and all of the concerns. I think that's legitimate. I don't think you guys need to vote on a $6.9 million contract right now. Let's wait a little bit. Solar's coming. We all need it, but let's do it smart and equitably with a pragmatic and common sense approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great report. So, anybody else?
Yes. Liz Schmeiner on the Ag Department Solar.
Hi, my name is Liz Schmeer. I'm a graduate of 1996. My sister, Tracy Correa, she's a graduate from 1986. My sister, Susie Perry, she's a graduate of 1989. And my late dad, Rod Robertson, graduate of 1961. He's rolling in his grave right now, so this is why I'm here. And my daughter, Emily Schmeer, she is going to be your 2021-2022 Fallbrook High School ASB president, who I'm sorry couldn't be here to speak. What do we all have in common? We have all grown up at that ag department. It's so disappointing that on this agenda, you're going to vote on applying for this new agricultural grant, and then in the same turn around and take that ag land to put your solar project up. Fallbrook is special. I think everybody at that table in front of me knows that. We represent a large part of the San Diego agricultural community. If you want this farming community, this town, this school, to be against you anymore, because apparently nobody likes you guys, sorry to break it to you, this is gonna be the way to do it. Except for Mr. Jones, sorry. I'm telling you to find another solution, because this one isn't it.
What's her name? Ms. Schumeyer, thank you very much for your heartfelt report. Next, please.
No more public verbal comments?
So now it's the board that talks. We're going to start out with Carlo. I'm sorry. Sorry, that was a lot to listen to. I'll listen to Mr. Carlampio. Oscar.
No report. Just want to announce that my last name's misspelled. It's Caralampio, not Caralmapio. Yeah. It's all right. No, I'm saying.
I'm sorry, I was a little frustrated hearing. That's just how I feel. All right, Mr. Caralampio, and I have mastered his name. Anyway, he has no report. So, Mr. Jones, your report.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for the comments. Thank you for your concern and for doing the best you can to let us know how we can do better. I've been talking to a lot of board members the last week or so on a lot of topics. In no particular order, I'm learning a lot about critical race theory. I'm learning that it's very confusing. It's honestly above my level. It's a theory, but. And in follow-up conversations that we've had and a lot of the people up here, it seems that there's a understanding that it's critical race theory is something that we are trying to ram through or push through or indoctrinate our students or something like that. My comment is that nothing could be further from the truth. We do not have classes on that topic. That's not part of the high school curriculum here, nor does it have any place here. It's a high-level, confusing topic, and I know it's also very politically charged. So the faculty that I've got up here, or the other superintendent and the other board members, try to make our decisions based. Almost every decision we stop and say, you know, what's right for the community, what's right for the students, and that's where we're making our decisions. We're not focusing on skin color, we're focusing on opportunities and success of all of our students. And there's a lot of areas that we can be doing a lot better. Math scores were brought up. I think that's absolutely true. Graduation rates. These are the things we're trying to focus on. Again, this board is working together the best we can to make the best decisions we can, and we understand, that's the last thing is the Brown Act. Because we can't comment directly on public comment, it may seem like we're not listening. Brown Act says that we cannot engage in a discussion item on something that's not on the agenda. So that's why we're being very careful and not to reply back to public comments and things like that. Thank you for your understanding. I hope that sheds a little bit more light on what our focus is and what we're trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Sterling.
I think Mr. Jones said it all, so I don't have anything else to report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Ms. Summers, the board president, and I'd like to address the very fact that we've been under the pandemic for many months. This is our first time actually seeing each other in person all together. Just to kind of just something about critical race theory, there is a class that the state of California would like us to implement. It's called ethnic studies. This is something that won't even happen for a minimum of 2 years, minimum. Lots of discussion needs to be made. I just downloaded a 350-page report on what the state of California is giving for suggestions to teach. They want every district in the state of California to digest it, figure out what they want to do. And of course, that is up to the social studies department. The president of our board superintendent, principals, and at this level, we approve what they want to do. Nevertheless, I'm reading the 350-page report, just so I have the knowledge. So we're working very hard. I've been here now for 2.5 years, and we started the solar panels with a great concept in mind, bottom line, to make sure we have energy for the school in the future and also to save money. Yes, we did have to borrow money, and we are dealing with Johnson Controls, and much discussion has been about it. And I really enjoyed those reports. I know the farm is huge in Fallbrook. It is the 6th biggest program in the state of California, and that's saying something. So we honor the farm. We do everything we can to make it the best possible program. We put a lot of attention that some of the bond money goes there They didn't even have bathrooms that were appropriate, which we've already started to work on those. During the pandemic, things weren't available, like wood and lumber and all these, I mean, so many things. So prices are very high right now because of the demand, but they'll come down. So even though things seem slower than we would like, and the community is always welcome to give their input, and we're always listening. So I would just say one thing about math scores. The kids have not been tested for 3 years. So the scores that you look up are from 3 years ago. So we need time to get, I don't even know how kids would do high-level math on Zoom. Seems very difficult to me, the kind of math these kids are learning. But they'll come back, they're going to be in person, and we've changed the whole math program. There's no more algebra, geometry, and then algebra 2. It's all incorporated into this wonderful new math program that has been in the works since before I was board member. So we're working on that too, always working. So just be assured, people, that we're working on things. And I'd like to turn the microphone over to Ms. Tabish.
I have just a real quick report to kind of lighten things up a little bit. This Saturday, Live Oak Parks will be celebrating their 101-year anniversary, so anyone that is free on Saturday and would like to have a fun event to come, it goes from early in the morning till I believe 9 o'clock at night. So come on down to Live Oak Park for their 101-year anniversary party.
That's nice to hear. So that brings us to the agenda.
Actually,
Did
I
I
have a
miss
brief
anything?
report.
Oh, superintendent, I'm so sorry. It's our superintendent's turn.
Yes, I just wanted to share that our second summer school session has over 400 students participating. This is the second week. The program will end next week on June 22nd. CDPH, the CDC last week updated their guidelines on masks in schools, which stated that masks are optional for those that are vaccinated, for staff and students. While indoors, we are allowed to not wear masks outdoors, but the CDPH, California Department of Public Health, which are the rules that we follow, has stated that they will continue to require masks indoors for students and staff at least for the start of the 2021-2022 school year. CDPH will also be providing updated guidance to schools, so that will be available to you at the next board meeting. And the California Department of Education also released their guidelines for independent studies, which is something that we had been waiting for. We are currently reviewing those in order to be able to establish our virtual learning options for students that are opting not to return to school in person just yet. So that information will be going out to parents as well. And I want to address a few things. As I've stated tonight with the mask wearing and the independent studies, we are bound by certain laws, both federal and state, because we do receive federal monies, and we are bound by the education code. And it is the education code that changed what we are to offer, what we're obligated to offer in our health courses. As far as the ethnic studies course is concerned, we do not currently offer the course at Fallbrook High School, as our board president stated. That would require development of the curriculum. It would require participation and approval through our instructional council, and it would require board approval. The ethnic studies curriculum is currently not required in California schools, but just so that you are aware, because that is where your voices need to be heard, there is pending legislation that, if passed and signed into law by the governor, would phase in an ethnic studies graduation requirement so that it would be required in order to graduate from a high school in California, beginning with the class of 2029-2030. And I also wanted to clarify that, yes, we are making many upgrades to our ag facilities. They are not being paid for by bond monies. It is actually through our developer fees. Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have an information item. This is revisions, deletions to board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits. The revision and deletions of board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits are being presented as an informal item for a first ready and will return as an action item at the next board meeting.
Any questions? And again, we bring board policies and administrative regulations and exhibits to the board to stay in compliance with California Education Code. And all of these board bylaws, administrative regulations, and exhibits follow the California School Board Association recommendations. It is only an informational item and will appear at the next board meeting as an action item.
All right, action item number 2, revisions to board bylaw and exhibit 9250, remuneration, reimbursement, and other benefits. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board approve the revisions to the board bylaw and exhibit 9250, remuneration, reimbursement, and other benefits in the second reading as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So that was Tabish and Jones. So at this time, I'm going to ask for any clarifications, questions, or comments from board members.
Yeah, I want to share, I think I was in the meeting when a former trustee brought this up a while back, and I want to reiterate what he stated, that something that I agreed with. He stated that it was a privilege to sit here for 4 to 5 hours with closed sessions without pay. Now, this is so discouraging for a lot of many hardworking parents, single parents, who would like to become board members, but cannot afford to lose 4 to 5 hours voluntarily. Now, for a lot of people, $240 may not seem like a lot, but for a single household income or a parent from a single household income, that could be a bill that could be paid. Now, the elections are coming up. What I'm stating is that, you know, we should give everybody a chance to run, and folks from, again, single working households, sorry, a little nervous, but you know, this could encourage them, and then hopefully we could have some strong potential board members that you know, that could file for a campaign. So with that, I vote yay.
Thank you. And anybody else?
I don't believe we've called for the vote yet. Correct?
No,
It's
I
still
know.
discussion.
No, I'm
Okay.
asking if anybody else has a comment or question. Nobody? I do. There's been some concern about the benefits that board members get, especially when it comes to health care. Ms. Medford, could you explain how the bylaw is explained was to me? Thank you.
Yes, the board members would be entitled to the same health benefits as current district employees are, which is on the certificated side, they are 55, up until 55 years old. If somebody wanted to retire, they are then eligible for the medical benefits for 10 years until they reach 65, which is the Medicare eligible age. On the classified contract, it's 55 if you have 15 years of service, 58 if you have 10 years of service. So that's it, and the benefits are not any better for the board members than they are for the certificated or classified staff members.
Ms. Mefford, I would like to make one correction. The board bylaw states very clearly that board members who elect to participate shall pay the full cost of premium, so they don't even receive the amount that we pay into our employee benefits. And that was effective starting in the 2008-2009 school year.
So some people will attach to this school their programs that they have available to them because they're a large entity. So sometimes a board member could, if they wanted to, attach to the school, but they would still have to pay a premium. Could be anywhere from what it costs for a single person to a family. Ranges anywhere between maybe $700 to $1,500 a month that they have to contribute because the school district doesn't pay anything into that. And so that's what it really is. It's deceiving when you read this because it looks like, you know, you get all kinds of health benefits to be on the board, and you really don't. You can attach if you want to. Some people do that. And there's nobody on this board that I know of, but they always have that opportunity. Anybody coming next year, we could have done that up till now if we wanted to, any of us. That was okay. But back in 2008, when we had the stock market fell and everything was in such a mess and the state had very little money, the board at the time decided not to take the money. That was their decision. But it is in the bylaws. So for me, as an example, when I ran for the board, I saw it in the bylaws and I thought I was going to get $240 a month. And I'm retired and on a fixed income, so I was surprised. But nevertheless, I've been here for 2.5 years anyway. So, you know, it's just time to bring it up. So that's pretty much my comment on it. Also, here's another thing, I'm sorry, but all school boards in this area, the elementary does get paid, all the school districts around us do. It's just something that's being done. Here it was unusual, and it's in the law to do it, and so all this time they should have been, or we should have been offered it. And it also mentions in the bylaw that you can choose not to take it if you don't want to. So there you are. But because of what was voted on in 2009, it's been on hold. So I'm going to, unless anybody else has any comments or questions, do you, Mr. Jones?
I'm just trying to get a little clarification of where we were before this. Is this, the compensation for board members, is this something that is in the bylaws that should have happened, or where were we before the language that we have here?
So it is actually in education code where it states that board members can be reimbursed for the time on the board, and that reimbursement or the stipend that is received is dictated by Education Code 35120. So for a school district of our size, it's based on student population, it is $240 a month. Previously, before this was brought to the board for revision in, let's see, the last time that it was looked at was in 2011, in September of 2011. The board at that time felt that they did not want to receive the reimbursement and took that out of the board policy because it is optional, but it is allowed under the law. So we are now adding the language in that board members may receive the $240 stipend that's allowed by Education Code, and that board members who do not want to receive the payment can choose not to be compensated. And if a board member misses a meeting, they would not get the stipend for that month.
Thank you.
Excuse me, is that clear to everybody? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead. Any other concerns or questions? And I'll give it a second. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Caralampio?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Summers says aye. And Ms. Tavish?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes 5-0. All right. Then we'll go to action item number 3. Revisions to job description, athletic trainer. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board approve in the first reading the revisions to the athletic trainer job description as presented.
Thank you.
I second.
All right. We have a first and second from Tabish and Caralampio. And do we have any questions or concerns with this item?
I do.
Okay.
Is this position going to be a change from classified to certificated?
No, the position will continue to be a classified position. Our job description was outdated and did not meet the qualifications that are outlined by the National Athletic Trainer Association, which requires athletic trainers to have a master's degree. Our job description required a bachelor's degree, and therefore the pay was considerably lower. We had a job vacancy for an athletic trainer since October. As everybody knows, we offer a wide variety of sports, and it is crucial that we keep up to date with industry standards, and that is the reason for the change. So the only things that are changing, if you look at the attachment, is we have removed supervises the security of the locker room. That is the responsibility of the coaches. We've updated training and experience to match that of the National Athletic Trainers Association, and we've also changed the salary range from a 13 to a 22 so that we are competitive with the industry and nearby districts, and we're requiring a master's degree, which most athletic trainers have. If they're certified, they have a master's because it's required.
Is that good?
Anybody else? Okay. Let's go ahead and call for the vote. That'll be Mr. Caralampio.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling.
Aye.
Thanks. Ms. Summers says aye. And Ms. Tavish.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. This action item number 4, new classified position supervisor of attendance. May I have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and motion that we go ahead and approve the new classified position supervisor of attendance as read.
Okay, that's Jones and Sterling for the first and second. Any clarification here?
Because it is a new position, I would like to read the background information. Contacting parents and students regarding attendance issues is a critical part of a student's education. The student needs to be present to learn. Having a person be the liaison and have the ability to meet and confer on how to better assist and improve a student's attendance is crucial to their academic success and reaching the ultimate goal of graduation. The new job description addresses the duties of the supervisor of attendance and how they will be working to improve a student's attendance. Communicating and meeting with parents and students having attendance difficulties will be helpful and improve academic grades. The position will be paid with supplemental concentration funds with the cost of approximately $49,563 for salary and benefits including average medical of $29,052 for a total of $78,615. This new position assists the district in meeting the needs of all of our LCAP goals.
Is everybody good? Any questions or concerns? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the vote on action item number 4. That would we'd start out with Mr. Caralampio.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Thanks. Ms. Sterling?
Aye.
Thanks. Ms. Summers says aye. Ms. Tabish?
Aye.
Okay. Action item number 5 passes. That brings us to 5, Johnson Controls for the solar photovoltaic battery project. Sorry, I mispronounced that. May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to go ahead and raise a motion to discuss this item.
Okay, so you read the whole thing that it says underneath there.
I go ahead and motion to
That the board?
that the board approve the updates on the changes to the Johnson Controls.
Okay. May I have a second, please?
I deferred to.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Now it's time for
Okay,
comments.
I apologize.
But this is a person from the audience because are you representing Johnson Controls?
No, I am
No,
not.
this is Mrs. Margaret Chapman. She is
Sorry.
one of our agriculture teachers, and during public verbal comments, she asked to table her comment until the agenda item was
Thank you.
brought up.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Mrs. Garza Gonzalez. I am here tonight with concerns and questions pertaining to the solar project change order that you will be reviewing and voting on here this evening. For those in the audience that may not know, I am one of the 3 teachers in the agriculture department and have been here at Fallbrook High School for over 20 years. Recently, it has come to our attention that the solar project that we were told would have little or no impact on the agriculture department has now been expanded to be built over 2 of the 4 pastures we have in the back portion of the department. We understand a change was made back in September from the original plan. However, we were never informed. Had we known, we would have come to you much sooner. In years past, we have found uses for these pastures grazing our student-managed goat herd, student beef projects, and growing vegetables. With the hiring of an agriculture teacher less than 2 years ago and the adoption of our advanced floral design and advanced environmental horticulture classes, we have developed ideas on the development of student-based projects for the use of those pastures to increase student engagement in our agriculture program. We certainly hope that you can see the value of hands-on opportunities that will increase student connection to the campus, needed more now than at any time. Future plans include the designing and implementation of a potential cut flower area and vegetable garden, all plans that have been on hold due to the pandemic. Our department is wondering, have other locations been considered that will not impact students or potential student-based projects? It is my understanding that due to the inability to utilize carports in the junior parking and thus reducing energy production, that the number of panels in the agriculture area was increased. Can other parking areas, such as the district, Oasis parking lots, student parking on Winter Haven, or even the open field east of this district office used during graduation parking, be utilized to compensate for these extra panels? We are hoping that you consider tabling this agenda item and looking for alternative locations for additional solar panels that will not encroach upon any more of the agriculture facility. We strongly encourage you to look at the overall impact of this project and its potential detriment to student engagement opportunities. Thank you for your time and consideration to this important matter.
Thank you for your comment. Does anybody on the board want to make a comment concerning Johnson Controls at this time before we make the vote?
I'd like to speak to the representative from Johnson Control.
Madam President, members of the board, I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have Dr. Russell Garcia and Renee Goodwin from Johnson Controls. And for any further questions, we do have our legal counsel, Mr. Samuel Santana, who's also in the audience, who will be able to address any questions the board may have.
So you had proposed that the elementary district take over those 2 meters, or 3 meters, I'm sorry, that they are utilizing that has been under the payment from the high school district. Has the elementary school district agreed to do this?
Ms. Mefford can actually answer that question since it's outside of the scope of Johnson Controls.
The elementary district has agreed to take their meters, and I am working with Michelle White, who's our SDG&E representative, on first separating those 3, and then we are working outside of Johnson Controls with SDG&E on the meter consolidation project.
Okay, I have other questions, such as we're going to be paying $35,443 to $37,601 for your consulting fees, but then again on page 28 it says that we are also going to be paying for the hourly wage for any consulting person that comes out to work on our units. So what is it? Are we paying a flat fee, or are you paying a flat fee plus paying for their salaries?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
On page 28 of your document, it says that we are going to be paying service fee for consulting and service fees. We're also paying their hourly wage while they're here.
Let me see what
Page 27.
So I believe that is, and I would have to go back and double check and to answer your question directly, but I believe that is the breakdown of what the hourly rate is.
So
Can you speak into the speaker? I cannot hear a thing you're saying.
I said I believe that is an hourly rate for the total amount, but I would have to go back and review the contract specifically to that particular item.
So we're paying both, the hourly rate plus the consulting fee of $35,000,
No, I have
such
to
and
go,
such.
I would have to go back and review the specific pages that you're talking about, and then I could give you a straight answer. Mr. Santana, since you've been working with the contract, do you have any clarification on that particular item? 28, and what's the other page?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, typically the first number you mentioned, the 35,000, this is with regard to the measurement and verification consulting services. So the scope of that work is after the improvements are completed, you would contract with JCI to provide, I believe it's 3 years of measuring and verification services to make sure that you're meeting the verification, for them to verify that you're meeting the savings that are proposed in the agreement. So that 35,000 is for measuring and verification, providing reports, providing you with the data that you need to verify the savings. And typically the hourly rate that's associated with that would be if there's some work that needs to be done, if there's damage to the equipment or that type of thing, then you would pay for the hourly rate. So as someone mentioned earlier, I believe there's a baseball field nearby or something like that. So if after the project is completed, there were to be damage to the equipment that would need to be fixed in order for you to be able to reach the savings that are proposed, then at that point, JCI would typically charge their hourly rates to fix that damage.
Any more?
Yes, to the Johnson Controls. Can you comment at all or fill us in? We heard the topic of, or the problem of liquefaction, which was a problem with part of the soil, and therefore we weren't able to put as much over the main parking garage or the main parking area. But I've heard now from somebody in the public, and then I also heard this earlier, that there might have been some alternatives. Can you comment on that?
There might have been some
I'm sorry, alternatives so that we can mitigate the liquefaction problem, but still use the same areas.
Okay, just to comment a little bit, expand on that. All areas, all the roofing, all the parking lots, all the empty fields were all evaluated at that time. My first meeting here was January 30th of 2019, and the contract was awarded September 30th of 2019. The area that has been designated for the ground mount has always remained the same from the original design build contract. And so the contract is a design build. And we went through the design portion from September 30th until our recent adjustments. The liquefaction area that you're talking about, there were some arrays removed during the course of design due to the liquefaction and the cost of that. But in addition, that was in order to meet the original production request of September 30th or September 28th, the board meeting. Then the production was taken back on February 19th to just under 1 megawatt. And so you would have had to remove arrays, modules, anywhere. Since those were the easy ones to remove because the cost, and we did evaluate and look at structurally what would have to be done through our geological reports and through the state architect's office. And the cost of that was extreme, but since they needed to be removed to get back to the under 1 megawatt, that came out first, and an additional row came out of the ground mount. Is that?
I'd like to clarify,
Yeah.
and I don't remember the dates exactly, but we do have board agendas. The original project was for solar in the senior and junior parking lot in the carport. The board, that was going to give us anywhere between 60 to 70%, I believe, and Ms. Mefford, step in if I get it wrong. The board then requested up to 80% production. And the design that we received was the carports in the junior and senior lot. And in order to get to that 80% production level, the ground mounts in the agriculture department, and that was approved at that time. At the February 19th meeting, that was not a board meeting, so you won't find notes or minutes on that. We were informed that liquefaction was an issue in the carport area. And in order to reach the 80% production, one of the suggestions was that we take up 2 more pens from the agriculture department, as well as at that meeting, we found out about Rule 21, which meant that a system that size would incur up to a $600,000 fee. And I made the decision at that time to not take up 2 additional pens, because I said that would completely wipe out the agriculture department, and to keep the system under the 1 megawatt to avoid kicking in Rule 21. The 2 pens, the 2 ground mount systems in the ag department remained because we lost some of the carports due to the liquefaction issue. We did look at the grad parking lot that we use. That also has liquefaction. We're built, I understand, over a swamp. So that's going to be a problem. We looked at Ivy. We looked at Oasis. Obviously, district office was our first suggestion that we look at those parking lots. Those are an issue when it comes to the fire department because they can't do the turns that they need to. We looked at mounting on the roofs. We have a very old school that cannot support those systems. And the suggestion was to mount them on the new CTE steam buildings, but that would mean that the 400s would have to first be, modernized before we put the solar up, which those won't be modernized for probably another two years, Ms. Mefford? And the new steam building is even farther away from that. So we did look at all possible options, but the main goal, at least for me, was to stay under Rule 21 and not kick in another $600,000 fee for being over 1 megawatt.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Actually, I'd like to go back to the ag teacher. Regarding the pens, and we also heard earlier about a place that used to be used for lacrosse training. My question is that old field that we used to use for lacrosse practice, is that currently being used for agricultural pens, or are the pens separate from that?
Okay, so I don't know if we're on the same page, but there are 4 pastures that I consider part of the agriculture program. And then there is an area past that, which is where the bulk of the solar project has been. So lacrosse, I don't know. I'm not a lacrosse coach. So if they've been playing, it's been outside of our area. It's been in that back area, which was originally where I thought the solar project was.
Yeah, so I think we're talking about the same thing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, if we could ask for input from Johnson Controls or our attorney or Ms. Mefford or myself, if you would like to follow up with a meeting with the ag teachers, we can do so. But the board can only ask questions, interact with JCI and Mr. Santana or the people that are here.
Understood. I apologize. Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions from the board to Johnson Controls or to our attorney?
So, Mr. Santana, what do you think that our best course is at this point?
Well, I mean, I think at this point, we are at the point where if there are questions, this is the perfect time to get those answered before we move forward. As the contract is structured, there's a design scope, which Johnson Controls has completed, as was mentioned. The next step is the step we're in now, which is where Johnson Controls is putting together a construction proposal for the board to consider, which is what's being considered tonight. If that's approved, then that would lead to a contract amendment, and we would proceed with the construction. However, as the contract is structured, the district can still ask questions, can still get clarification, can still get comfortable with all of the unanswered issues that you may still have, and this is the perfect time to do that before moving into construction. So if there are questions about location, I believe there were some questions about the number of meters. I believe there may have been questions about potentially the battery component. And I think as well, the architect who is designing the CTE building had questions about a floodplain issue and how this might impact the JCI project and the CTE building. So I think, given all the uncertainty that appears to still be kind of in the air, As the construction contract is structured, right now is the perfect time to have that addressed. I think if we were to approve it tonight and still have those questions answered, then that would be a lot harder to change it going forward. Whereas if we, kind of buckle down and get these answered, and I'm sure JCI will make themselves available to answer those questions, and the CTE architect will make himself available to interact with JCI and get those answered, then I think you'll be probably happier, I think, at the end of the day with less change orders and less issues with the construction of it.
Thank you for that, mentioning that. So does anybody else have any questions for our attorney or for Johnson Controls?
I'm not sure if this is really a question, but I'm just very concerned with the contract in that what we had agreed to originally, we are getting far less for a much higher price tag, and there's been a lot of changes that you're, coming up with. You're not going to switch out the meters. The Rule 21 just came up a few months ago. We weren't notified about that, a year ago when we were first getting into this, and we had requested the 80% coverage of solar at that point, which you guys do this all the time, so you should have been able to tell us about Rule 21 back then before we were making this decision. So I really kind of feel like this contract in general has been almost like a bait and switch kind of thing where we were told one thing at the very beginning, and now you're telling us all these different things with more and more costs that keep adding up, and it's just not making the sense that it did way back in the beginning. So I don't know if there's a question there, but I'm very frustrated with the whole situation.
I don't know how you guys how Johnson Controls can respond to that, but if you want to say something, because we need to go on to the vote.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely sympathetic, right, to dealing with the headwinds and changes in a design-build contract, which this is, and we're trying to arrive at a goal that the district has with a certain production of clean energy and plus storage. So I'm sympathetic of the changing in the costs through the development. There were 4 questions that were asked prior to the board that we were sent via email. Those will help answer some of that for you as far as some of the changes as it relates to the size of the battery, right? Changing to a smaller size because it's not as cost efficient to have the larger battery. So actually went from a 300 kilowatt hour battery to a 1087 kilowatt hour battery. But what ended up happening is we got a 4-hour battery instead of a 2-hour, and this battery size configuration it yielded the most savings for the cost. So that's always what we're trying to do, is figure out what the lowest cost is around the design goal. As it relates to the metering, did we look at reducing the number of meters, meter consolidation, and is that still happening? No. Rather than consolidating the meter, we did an analysis and presented to the staff where it was concluded that it was more financially advantageous for the district to just do a rate change on those existing meters. And there was a couple of clarifying questions as it relates to our execution and delivery of the project as far as tying progress payments to the work instead of time. That's pretty typical on a draw schedule, being tied to project scope and not just a time frame. So yes to that answer. And then will we have access to purchase statements from JCI suppliers? I don't see why not. We provide these in an open book pricing like we've done here for this contract. So really transparent with the cost, and we were able to keep the escalation costs through from the start of this at 4.5% when our other projects are around 16%. So we had a lot of wins along the way to save money while trying to get to the production goals of the district.
And I do want to clarify that we have not committed to moving away from the meter consolidation. That would happen if, that would be part of the vote tonight, but that decision has yet to be made.
Could I also address?
I did not see a discount in the contract for not doing the meter consolidation. It seemed like the contract price went up instead of down when you're no longer going to be doing the consolidation of the meters. I don't understand that part. And then the other thing is I would like to understand a little bit more about your pricing of the access road. You would price that at like $490,000 to do an access road, and then we were able to get a bid for $43,000. And so I'm wondering the buffering there, I mean, how much padding is going on with, these different contracts? Can you explain the road at all? I mean, on the price on that?
Okay, I'm not sure which to address. I was going to address Mr. Santana's comment regarding liquefaction in the floodplain. And I don't know who the other architect is, but I do know that that was all addressed during the course of design. And so the floodplain, all of the mapping, all of that with the geotech has all been taken care of as far as the solar project and the battery and how to address the battery in a solar, in a floodplain and all of that. So that has all been taken care of. With regard to the road, we provided a quote, the quote that we received to the district and to substantiate what we had. We've discussed back and forth, if you can get the road for that price, that you should definitely take that. And so that was credited back at the amount that we gave you. Because our quote that we got was substantially higher. And that was provided to the district at that time. I'm trying to think of what month that was, but it's been probably 4 months ago.
Okay, I think
But a
that,
progress, and to add on to what Russ was saying, because I am the operations leader, I start at the very beginning. So I was here for the very first meeting, and I'm here up until the very end. So I've been a part of all of the discussions regarding, can you put it on the roof, and what the structural issues are with the Department of State Architect for putting it on the roof, for discussing liquefaction and floodplain. And all of that has been discussed and documented throughout the course of design. So it has all been addressed. The documents have been turned in for the carport to the state. They've been approved. So the carports are ready to go at any time. I did double check with the architect this morning to talk to him about the ground mount and the battery. It is under review. They anticipate that they'll have red line comments back by next week and be scheduling an appointment for back check.
all right, thank you. And anything else? We're good?
Well,
Do you have anything else to say?
The only other
Doctor?
thing I would add is that I did also discuss if there were any changes, could we address those in back check, or would we have to do a CCD? And he said either option is available.
Okay, do you have anything else to say before you leave?
Only that, we know that the costs are rising for equipment. And last month, we took a hit on the solar. It was about $30,000 that we're mitigating on behalf of the district because we're trying to, hit the original targeted price. So those are some of the costs that we've been able to mitigate on behalf of the district. And I also wanted to say to the attendees, very sympathetic to the ag space. My wife's in ag, so I'm gonna have a lot of explaining to do when I get home. But we definitely believe in these type of clean energy projects and worked well with the district to do our due diligence here for cost, space, scope, and delivery. So thank you, President.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. My goodness, lots of stuff here tonight. I think it's time to go ahead and call for the vote. And we're listening to our attorney, and to vote on this means we go forward, or if we don't vote for it, it means everything's on hold. And there we are with that. So I'm going ahead and call for the vote. We'll start with Trustee Carlampio. What's your vote?
Nay.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Sterling?
No.
Ms. Summers says no. And Ms. Tavish?
No.
Ah. Yep. Okay. And needs more work. So now we'll hit the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted by one action. There is usually no discussion of these items prior to the time of the Board of Trustees votes on the motion unless members of the board request specific items to be discussed or deleted from the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board approve as presented the consent agenda.
I second.
All right, so that's Tabish and Sterling. Any questions, concerns, or anything? Okay.
Just
Here-
want to clarify that I said nay, not yay. So that was a no on
Yeah, we got it.
action
We got
5.
it. We heard you. So let's go ahead and call for the vote for the consent agenda. So that's Mr. Carlampio.
Aye.
Thanks. Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Good. Ms. Sterling.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Summers says aye, and Ms. Tabish.
Aye.
Okay, so consent agenda passes. That brings us to organizational matters. This is the appropriate place in the agenda for members of the board to request the superintendent provide further information regarding items discussed at this meeting or request that new items of business be placed on future agendas. Does anybody have anything?
I would like to request a meeting with Mr. Santana and go over different options for the solar project.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you would like a special board meeting on the solar project?
Yes.
Okay. Is the rest of the board in agreement?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
I would also like to ask to have a couple of different solar companies coming in to give a bid to see what it's out there, since there's been so many changes.
Noted. I don't know that that will be at the same meeting, depending on how quickly you would like the special study session.
We might end up doing more than one. All right, I have something concerning the students for next year. When we were doing COVID, the kids, it had been a tradition here at Fallbrook that kids do this community service, and it was really something that has been traditional, and kids would work all kinds of places. It rains and different things, and it was beautiful, you know, and maybe a little hassle at the end because some kids kind of left it to the last minute, but it had really good intent. And during COVID, there was no way that the kids could go out and do that sort of thing, so we dropped it. There has been some discussion on reinstating that, but with new verbiage, and we would like to have some kind of, or let's bring it up, how we can do something that has a certificate program, and that Ms. Kane at the Career Center has some ideas about how to do that, so that the kids aren't leaving the high school clueless of what they wanted to do, that it's possible that because of a community service, there's just something that, you know, clicked with them and they got excited, and this is something they wanted to continue with the rest of their life. So if it just needs to be thought through, ideas brought out, and I think Ms. Kane would be a wonderful contributor to designing that. So that's what I'd like to see happen as soon as we could. I would like to see something started for the next school year that is not demanding for everybody, but that works for the kids who want it.
So again, as clarification, the community service was not waived. It is still board policy and graduation requirement. We only waived 5 hours each semester that we were in distance learning, so 15 hours from the seniors, juniors, and then I think it was 10 for sophomores, and it would have been 10 for freshmen. And what we had discussed previously is the state's seal of civic engagement. So is the discussion that you would like to see, is that the criteria for the seal of civic engagement take the place of community service and have that discussed in a board meeting?
That's what we were
Perfect.
thinking.
Okay.
And that's true. I stand corrected on it, but I know that we just didn't do it during COVID, that we had to put it on hold. So let's get that revised so that we can, all this is just, we really want to concentrate on the kids and focus on them for the new year with something very positive. Anything else? Okay, so there being no further business to come before the board, the regular meeting of July 12, 2021 was adjourned at 7:15 by Diane Summers, the board president.